I talked last night to a Democratic strategist of some note who, let me just say up front, this person is not with the Biden campaign, but does have knowledge of what's going on with the Biden campaign. And I had put on Twitter, and I had said on this program that we shouldn't worry, that we shouldn't go into conspiracy theory as to why Joe Biden is not on the campaign trail, that he's debate prepping. And I had heard that. I didn't just say it off the top of my head. I had heard it from someone, but the Biden campaign has come out and said, no, that's not true. Kamala Harris is not on the campaign trail right now, and Joe Biden is not really on the campaign trail. They're not making a lot of news. They're declaring lids. A lid is when a campaign says we're going to generate no more news the rest of the day. So what on earth is going on? Well, I reached out to a friend who's a well-known Democratic strategist who's not connected to the Biden campaign, but has a sense of what's going on. And I want to convey to you what the Democratic strategist said. And again, this is not me. This is not my opinion. I want to convey to you the thinking of the Democrats. Here's what they say. According to him, the Biden campaign does not have a reason to campaign. They are engaged, if you will, in some political jujitsu. If you read anything about media criticism of how the media covers events these days, there's a growing perception on the left that one of the biggest problems is the media dares to try to accurately reflect the views of the side Democrats don't like, or at least cover them fairly and give them equal time. So if the Biden campaign goes in campaigns, the media will have to cover the Biden campaign in addition to covering Trump. And if the Biden campaign calls early lids and Joe Biden does not go out on the campaign trail, well, then the media will 100% focus on Donald Trump. And as Eric Trump called last week to the program and said, as the president has said, as others have said, the overwhelming 95, 96% of the coverage that the president gets from the media is overwhelmingly negative. So if Joe Biden does not campaign, it is basically 100% negative press coverage of Donald Trump. Supplementing the negative coverage right now of Donald Trump are Republican officials and people who worked in the Trump administration coming out and endorsing Joe Biden. And so the media, instead of covering Joe Biden because Biden's called a lid and is generating no news, covers all of these Republicans coming out saying, oh, I worked for the guy. I'm not voting for Donald Trump. I'm voting for Joe Biden. And that amplifies the negative coverage of Donald Trump. If Biden comes out, he risks a misstep. Now, the Democratic strategist tells me that they are not seeing polling that the president is actually making a dent. The Republicans are making a dent on this claim that Biden is enfeebled and incapable of talking and can't hold his thoughts, that plays well to the Republican base. The Democrats say that they can't figure out who this is relating to. It's certainly not helping the Republicans with senior citizens who seem to be aggravated with this line of attack on Joe Biden. They themselves, of course, have foggy brains sometimes, I suppose, but it's not working according to this Democrat. They don't see the signs of it working. But if Biden does come out and makes a misstep, it does allow the media an opportunity to say Biden misspoke. Not that many of them would, in my opinion, but in this Democratic strategist's opinion, they would cover it. And so why make mistakes? Why say things that aren't true? Or why go ballistic on the president and have the Republicans fired up and have the media cover it as a he said versus he said thing, when if Biden and Kamala Harris just simply don't campaign, the media has nothing to throw at them and will spend their time going after Donald Trump. This Democratic strategist tells me that the thing you got to remember is that the president can't help himself. He says outrageous things. He overstates things. He tries to minimize the virus. When the president dismisses the deaths in the virus, the media amplifies that he's dismissed deaths. If the president overstates things, the media says he's wrong. And inevitably, the president will say something outrageous like the question of a peaceful transition of power that the media will highlight. Is this person notes what I have myself noted to you guys, that if you look at the president's popularity over the last 4 years in office, one of the striking things is that he is most popular when he is least seen. If you go through and you chart the bumps in the president's popularity, typically what you find is that the president has managed to not step on the foreign policy successes and domestic policy successes of the administration. He's let the successes speak for themselves without getting out there, without being on Twitter. Every time the president starts going on Twitter tirades and holding repeated press conference where he gets combative and defensive, his polling begins to slide. And the president can't help himself, according to this Democratic strategist. They want the president to be out there as much as possible. They want the president to be on TV as much as possible. They want the news networks to cover his rallies as much as possible because they think it actually hurts the president. Now, you can say that they are wrong, but that's their thinking. Essentially, and I'm going to read for you what I wrote. I've got one of my email newsletters that's going to go out in a little while on this. But the strategist tells me the more Trump is in the headlines, the better it is for Biden. If Biden gets in the headlines, he risks missteps. Unlike 2016, there has not been a single national poll with Trump in the lead this time, except Rasmussen and Emerson, neither of which are taken seriously by anybody. The polling averages have Biden over 6 points. Clinton was only over Trump by 2 points at the end in the polling average and in the election. At no point in 2020 has Trump ever led a polling average. In 2016, Trump led the polling average at 2 different points. With 40 days to the election, Biden is up 6.5% of the polling average. At the same time, Clinton was only up by 2.9% of the polling average. Simply put, the Democrats see Trump constantly in the spotlight as a good thing for the Democrats and see putting Joe Biden in the spotlight as unnecessary and unhelpful in keeping the spotlight on Donald Trump. That is why the Biden campaign keeps pulling both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris off the campaign trail. They see no reason for them to do it. If they did it, the media will cover them. If the media covers them, they're not covering Donald Trump. And the Biden campaign is fundamentally convinced at this point that the more Donald Trump is covered, the worse it is for Donald Trump and the better it is for Joe Biden. Again, you feel free to disagree with this. I just want you to understand from the Democratic perspective that that's what's going on. But the Biden team has not gone into rigorous debate prep. They're about to start, according to the Biden campaign, but they've been calling all of these lids, and no one's quite understood why, and this appears to be what's happening. Now, again, quibble with this as you want, but it is reality that the president's popularity has gone up when the president has receded from the spotlight. It helps the president with the Republican base, but this is the thing as well. The Democrats believe, and this is not from the strategist, this is just, I read enough of them and I talk to them enough. The Democrats believe there are more of them than there are of us. And they believe that though there isn't a huge surge of support for Joe Biden, there is huge antagonism for Donald Trump.